And we are live. Welcome, everyone who is joining us to Redeeming the Unforgivable, how Ruth and Boaz relate to Lot and his daughters, and Yehuda and Tamar. My name is Rivka Cohen. I'm the program manager at JOFA, the Jewish Orthodox Feminist Alliance. I'm here with Deborah Clapper, who holds an AB from Harvard University and a Scholar's Circle certificate from Drisha Institute. She lives, learns, and teaches in Sharon, Massachusetts, and has an active blog on the Times of Israel. If you would like a source sheet for this shir, please email me at Rivka, that's RIVKA, at jofa.org. And now take it away, Deborah.
Hi. Okay, so we're going to start with chapter 3 of Ruth. There's an echo in the background at my end. Is there at your end, Rivka?
There's not.
Okay, so it's probably a function of my earbuds or something.
I'll lower.
Okay. So we're going to start with chapter 3 in Megillat Ruth, which, just to locate ourselves in the story, is after Ruth and Naomi come back from Moab, and they spend the summer living off of the food that Ruth gleans. This is the end of the summer, and they don't have an obvious path forward. Since they don't have their own crops, they don't have any food saved for the winter, and they don't really have a basis for living, because Naomi seems to have left everything behind at the time when she left, and Ruth is a newcomer who's a foreigner, and it's not clear what's going to happen next. Okay, so let's look closely at the third chapter, and we're going to ask some questions, and then I want to go to Sefer Breshit and look at some backstories, and then we'll come back to Ruth. Okay, so starting from the beginning of chapter 3, this is on top of page 1 of both the English source sheet and the Hebrew source sheet. It says, "V'tomer la Naomi chamota." Her mother-in-law Naomi said to her, "Biti, halo avakesh lach manoach asher yitav lach." My daughter, won't I seek for you rest, which will be good for you? Okay, so she's trying to find a better future for her. Let's see what she proposes. Ve'ata halo Boaz modatanu asher hayit im et narotav. She says, remember Boaz, who our relative, who you were with his servant girls when you were gleaning. He's going to be threshing his barley on the threshing floor tonight. And remembering that the processing of barley and wheat, which are the staple foods here, have to take place outdoors. They take place outdoors over a long period of time. And this is your food for the next year. So you definitely camp out next to the food to keep the squirrels and whatever from eating it. So someone in the household is going to be sleeping on the threshing floor every night, and Naomi apparently has some information that tonight at Boaz's threshing floor, he's going to be there. So here are her instructions. V'rachat v'sacht v'samt simlotayich alayich v'yarad hagar. She says you should wash and you should anoint yourself and you should put your clothing on you and go down to the threshing floor. Al tivad'i la'ish ad kalato le'echol v'lishtot. And go down to the threshing floor. Don't make yourself known to the man until he finishes eating and drinking. Now, these are odd instructions for a couple of reasons. One is that they're oddly detailed. Right? You would think that she could just tell her, make yourself look like respectable, and Ruth, who's a grown-up, could figure out how to make that happen. The other is, what do you mean put on your own clothes? Like, who else's clothes would you be wearing? And in addition to that, why is she supposed to hide until he's done eating and drinking? And make yourself known is a very strange language, and we will see that the verb yud daled ayin, to know, is going to repeat over and over again in this parak, and that's going to be one of the points that everything turns on. So keep an eye out for that. Okay. Instructions continue in verse 4. It will happen when he lies down. You should keep track. You should know the place where he lies down. Uvalat v'gilit marglotav v'shachaft. Then, once he's asleep, you should come to where he is, uncover his feet, and lie down. V'hu yagid la'acher ta'asin, and then he'll tell you what to do. This is a very odd set of instructions. Even if we grant that it's not so easy to get a private appointment with a man when you're a woman living in biblical Israel, that's not so appropriate, and you have to sneak around a little in order to make that happen, it's still odd, because she's supposed to wait until he goes to sleep and then wake him up. She's supposed to wait until he finishes eating and drinking without letting him know that she's there, but she's supposed to keep track of exactly where he is. And in the end, she's just supposed to sit and wait for instructions. It's weird. Okay. Now, so Ruth says, okay, I'll do everything you say, which is reminiscent of the language that the Jews used accepting the Torah back in Sefer Shemot, and has sort of aura of, I have no idea why you want me to do that, but I'll follow instructions about it. She went down to the garden and she does everything her mother-in-law commanded her. Again, we're having sort of echoes of a you command me and I don't know why I'm doing it, but I do it anyway experience. Vayochal Boaz vayesh. So Boaz eats and he drinks. Vayitav libo, and his heart is good. That seems to indicate that he's mildly inebriated. But whatever it is, it's put in positive terms. He's feeling good. He went to lie down at the edge of the piles of food. Vatavo balat, she came quietly or gently. Vatagal marglotav hatishkav, and she uncovered his feet and she lay down. And it seems like he's asleep already when she lies down there, because it happened halfway through the night. The man was scared and he turned over. And surprise, there's a woman lying at his feet. But it seems like he didn't notice when she first lay down, which to me says he's asleep. And she just lies there and waits until having his feet uncovered makes his feet cold and he wakes up, which happens around midnight. And he says, who are you? Which is a very polite question. I might have just run screaming, but he's braver than I am, I guess. She says, I'm your servant Ruth. Spread out literally your wings, but probably your cloak, over your maidservant. Go elata, because you are a redeemer. Now this is a little bit of a reference back to chapter 2 when Boaz first met her. He told her that he was so impressed that she had come to cover herself under God's wings. And this is a little bit of it's all well and good that you're impressed with my religious fervor, but I could use some actual wings to hide under. So, like, you're the redeemer. You should be doing something about that. But that's all she says by way of asking for anything. And he says, Vayomer brucha Hashem. He says, God bless you, my daughter. Your last kindness is greater than your first. That you didn't go after the younger men, the rich ones or the poor ones. And it seems like he is of the opinion that she's pretty enough and otherwise an attractive enough mate that she could have had any man she wanted, including a young rich one, which, since it's almost certainly not true, might indicate that he's already a little bit in love with her. If it were true that the young rich men were following her all over the place trying to marry her, she probably wouldn't be reduced to, waking people up in the middle of the night on a threshing floor in order to make her life continue. And she probably wouldn't be reduced to gleaning in people's fields either. So I'm guessing it's not true, and that he is blinded by the fact that he's in love with her. He likes her. Okay. And now, my daughter, he said, don't worry, I'll do everything you say. Now, since she didn't say very much, that's a little bit odd, but he seems to have understood that it was a marriage proposal. Because all of the gate of my people knows, and the people who sit in the gate are the important people. The matters of government are dealt with in the gate of the city. So this is, the rulers of the city know that you're a woman of valor. Let's read a little bit more, and I'll ask another question. He says that even though I am a redeemer, there's another redeemer who's a closer redeemer than I am. There's another relative who's a closer relative who has the first right to marry you. Now, there doesn't seem to be any legal requirement here. She's not a real legal yibum would only apply to brothers, and her husband's only brother is long dead. But there seems to be a cultural practice of taking care of widows by marrying them to someone else in the family. And Boaz says, I'm not the closest person. Okay, so just to summarize the ways in which this scene is odd. It's odd that it has to happen at all. Right. It's odd that you can't just, send a matchmaker or somebody else, or ask one of the women in his household to give him a message. Whatever the appropriate way to get a message to a man would have been from a single woman. It's odd that she is supposed to prepare in such detail, including being told to put on her own clothing. It's odd that she's supposed to sit and watch him and wait until he has finished eating and gone to sleep, and then she's supposed to wake him up. And it's odd that we have a focus on people knowing things. Right? She's not supposed to make herself known to him. She is supposed to know where he is. And in verse 14, which we didn't quite get to, when she leaves B'terem yakir ish et re'ehu. She leaves before a person could recognize his friend. Vayomer al yivada ki ba'a ha'isha agarin. He says it shouldn't be known that a woman came to the threshing floor. There's a lot about things being known and not being known. And then in verse 18, he also said all of the people in the gate know that you are an Eshet Chayil. Sorry, I missed that one. And then in verse 18, when Naomi is telling Ruth that she should just wait until, the afternoon, because for sure it's going to get fixed today, Naomi tells Ruth, wait until you know what happens. Okay. I want to go into the backstories of both Ruth and both Ruth and Boaz, and I think that will cast some light on these questions. So Ruth is from the people of Moab, and we know about the people of Moab from a number of different places, but I want to look at their origin story, which is back in the 19th chapter of Breshit, when Lot has just been rescued from Sodom right before it's being destroyed, although rescue is a little bit of a strong word because the truth is his entire family, except for two of his daughters, has been killed in front of him. So he's escaped. But it wasn't the most successful rescue in the world. He tries to take his married children with him. They won't come. His wife does come with him, but then she gets turned into a pillar of salt on the way out of the city. In the end, by the time the upheaval has ended and Sodom and Amorah are destroyed, he is so scared that he and his daughters run and hide in a cave. So let's take a look at what happens there. Okay, so we're at verse 29 in Bereshit chapter 19. It says, "Vayihi b'shachet Elohim et arei hakikar." And it happened when God destroyed the cities of the plain. Vayizkor Elohim et Avraham. God remembered Avraham. Vayishlach et Lot mitoch hapecha. And he sent Lot out from the overthrow. V'apochet ha'arim asher yashav behen Lot. When he overthrew the cities that Lot was sitting in. Vayal Lot mitzoar. So Lot goes up from a place called Tzoar, which in fact he had negotiated with the angels to get the city of Tzoar spared from the destruction of Sodom and Amorah, because he wanted to settle there. He didn't want to go live out in the wild, but in the end he can't stay there. He goes up from Tzoar, Vayeshev Bahar, and he settles instead in the mountain. Ushnei bnotav imo, with his two daughters with him. He arei lashevet b'tzar, because he's too scared to stay in the city. Right, so the world is ending. It's an apocalypse. And the apocalypse, he's not at all convinced that people are finished dying. And he figures his best way out is to go hide in this cave. Okay. Vayeshev b'ma'arahu shtei b'notav. And he settles. He doesn't just stay there for a little while. He seems to be planning to live there for the rest of his life in a cave with his two daughters. So the older daughter says to the younger daughter, Avinu zaken, our father is old. V'ish ein ba'aretz lavo eleinu kederach kol ha'aretz. And there is no man in the land to come to us like the way of the world. Right? So they're under the impression that they are the last two women in the world. Everyone else is dead. And their father is the last remaining man. And they're not sure how long he's going to live for. If they want to save the human race, they'd better act fast. That seems to be what they think. It's not at all clear why they think that, since they have only just left the city of Tzoar, which seems to have had people in it. And they must have known that their location was not the only location in the world. Lot is traveled pretty widely. He starts out in Aram with Abraham, and then he goes to Egypt, and then he comes back to Canaan. His family must be aware that there are people in other places, but they're very traumatized, I would guess. And at this moment, they don't believe there are any other people in the world. They think that they are, Noah and his children after the flood. That's the story they seem to be placing themselves in, which is interesting in light of what happens next. Except that Noah and his sons are rescued, each of them with a spouse. Right? So they think that they're worse off than Noah and his kids. Okay, so back to verse 32, the older daughter is still speaking. She says, let's get our father drunk on wine. And then we'll lie with him. And we will make children live from our father. So they got their father drunk that night. And the older daughter came and she lay with her father. He did not know when she lay down and when she stood up. And it happened the next day. And the older one said, El Hatzira, to the younger one, Hein shachavti emesh et avi. Last night I slept with my father. Nashkenu yain, let's give him wine. Gam halayla, tonight also. Uvoi shichvi imo, and then you will sleep with him. V'nichya me'avinu zara. And again, we'll produce children from our father. So they got their father drunk again. ותקום הצעירה ותשכב עמו, ולא ידע בשלחה וקומה. And the younger one got up and she lay down with him. And again, he didn't know when she lay down or when she stood up. Now, you have to kind of wonder if the girls aren't quite as innocent as they purport to be, because they seem to know what they're doing here, and how to make it happen without the help of the other partner. I'm a little skeptical that they could be quite as innocent as they were claimed to be in the beginning of the chapter, but whatever. Apparently it works. Vataharena, they got pregnant. The two daughters of Lot both become pregnant from their father. Vatera bechira ben vatikra shmo Moav, hu avi Moav Vataya. The older daughter, who's the one whose idea this was, has a son. She names him Moav, and he is the ancestor of the nation of Moab. Okay, this is where Ruth comes from. Now, we could say a lot of things about the bravery and the willingness to save the world of the daughters of Lot, but the truth is, in the end, their method for saving the world, and the world didn't need saving, but even if we pretend it did, their method of saving the world is deceptive, and it's incestuous, and it's, in general, not respectful of any of the other human beings or any of the norms of culture or law involved. This is, I think, certainly by our standards and probably even by the Torah standards, this is rape, and it's incestuous rape. And the fact that you're doing it in order to save the world doesn't change that. Okay. Let's take a look at Boaz's backstory, and then we'll come back to this. Okay, so now we're in the 38th chapter of Breshit, in a story that takes place in the middle of the narration of the Yosef being a slave in Egypt story. And Yehuda, in this interlude, suddenly the story is about Yehuda instead of about Yosef. Yehuda marries a woman who's the daughter of a man named Shua, has 3 sons, and marries off the oldest son to a woman named Tamar. God doesn't like his oldest son and kills him. So Tamar marries the second son, who God also doesn't like because he refuses to have children for his brother. So God kills him too. Okay, and that brings us to verse 11, which is where the sources start. Vayomer Yehuda leTamar kalato. So Yehuda said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, Shevi almana beit avich, go live as a widow in the house of your father, ad yigdal Shelah b'ni, until my son Shelah grows up. Right, that's the third son. Ki amar pen yamut gam hu ke'echav, because he said to himself, maybe he'll die like his brothers. Okay, so he's not being honest or straightforward here. He's lying. Right? He says, go and Shelah will grow up and then you can marry him. But what he means is, I see that every time one of my sons marries you, he dies. I'm not letting you anywhere near my children. Okay, but that leaves her stranded because she's sort of married to Shelah, but she's not allowed to actually be married to Shelah, so she can't marry anyone else. She's not married to him. Tamar is the first aguna in the Torah. Okay. In any case, Tamar went and lived at her father's house. Vayirbu hayamim, a lot of time passed. V'tamar bat Shua eshet Yehuda, Yehuda's wife died. Vayinachem Yehuda, and Yehuda was comforted. Right, so more time is passing. Vayal al gozezet sono hu v'chira re'ehu adulami timnata. Then after Yehuda is comforted from the loss of his wife, he goes to shear his sheep in a place called Timnah with a friend named Chira. Vayugad Tamar hears. Tamar is told, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. Which should remind us of the moment when Naomi says, hey, I heard the man that you need is, going to be doing some lonely agricultural activity in his field tonight. Right? In any case, she's told that that's where he's going to be. That Tasar Bigdei Almanuta, she takes off her widow clothing. Vatechas Batziv, and she covers herself in a veil. Vatitalaf, and she wraps herself. Vateshev bepetach einayim, she sits in a place called Petach Einayim, which is ironic because it means the opening of the eyes. She's about to be deceptive and disguised in a place called Open Your Eyes, which is Asher al derech Tinata, which is on the way to Timnah. Because she saw that Shelah is an adult and she hasn't been allowed to be his wife. Yehuda saw her and he thought she was a prostitute. Because she covered her face. He turned to her from the road. And he said, let me come to you. Because he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, okay, what do you pay me? He said, I'll send you a kid, a baby goat. And she says, okay, but only if you give me a security to hold on to until you send it. That's, I don't know you. So he says, what security should I give you? She says, give me your seal and your cord and your staff that are in your hand. And he gave it to her, and he came to her, and she became pregnant from him. Now, a seal is your ability to sign documents. And your staff is your sign of power, likewise your patil. So this is every bit as stupid as giving somebody your wallet and the pins for all of your cards and all of your computer passwords. Right? That's what he just gave her in return for sleeping once with a prostitute. And this is not good judgment on his part at all. It's extremely dumb. Of course, he thinks he's going to get it back, but he's not. Okay, but as soon as he's gone, as soon as he's gone, she gets up and she goes and she removes her disguise and puts back on her widow clothes. So Yehuda tries to send goat so that she didn't trust him, or she said she didn't trust him, but the truth is, this much honesty he does have. He does send the goat to pay her, but they can't find her. And in the end, they decide that it's just too embarrassing to keep looking for her, and they give up. Which, of course, they're not going to be able to find her because she was only pretending to be a prostitute to begin with. So, she's not there. In any case, so some time passes. We're in verse 24. It's about 3 months later. And they tell Yehuda, Tamar has prostituted herself. Which is interesting because they are using the word to mean just that she has engaged in some kind of illicit, adulterous sexual relationship. Because she's married to Shelah, she hasn't been allowed to marry him, so the kid can't be his. She must have slept with someone else. She must have committed adultery. The truth is that we, the reader, know that in fact she pretended to be a prostitute. The word is literally true. In any case, they as soon as people can tell that she's pregnant, they send a message to Yehuda saying that she's committed this sin, and that she's pregnant. Vayomer Yehuda hotziuha v'tisares. Yehuda says, take her out and let her burn. He mutzeit, as she's being taken out, she sent a message, or she sent something to her father-in-law saying, La'isha sheila lo anochi hara. Vatomer hakerna lemia chotemet v'aptilim v'hamatahila. She says, I'm pregnant by the man who owns these objects. Do you recognize this staff and this cord and this seal? Vayaker Yehuda vayomer tzadka mimeni. And Yehuda recognizes it, and he says, she's more innocent than I am. Notice that's relative. It doesn't mean she's innocent. It just means he did something worse than she did. And because I didn't give her to my son Shelah, it would seem that what Tamar did is less bad than what Yehuda did, and what Yehuda did is refusing to let her marry the person she's supposed to have married. But Velo Yasaf Od Ledata, he did not know her again. Okay, in the end, she has 2 babies, and the younger of the babies, who was also the first one born, there's always drama with who's firstborn and who's secondborn with twins in Tanakh. Not my experience. My twins were just born one and then the other, but, I wasn't in a dramatic book at the time, so maybe that's why. Anyway, so the first one born, who was also the second born, is Peretz, and Peretz is the ancestor of Boaz. He's his great-great-great-grandfather or something to that effect. Okay, so let's note the features of this story. Again, we have at least a sexual assault, probably a rape. I don't actually know what American law would have to say about pretending to be somebody else when you're somebody the person definitely wouldn't sleep with, and then they're awake when they sleep with you, but they think you're somebody you're not. I'm pretty sure we don't approve of this, though, even if we don't, strictly speaking, classify it as rape. It's definitely, again, incestuous. Once you are married in halacha, your father-in-law is among the incestuous relations who are forbidden to you forever, even when your original husband doesn't exist anymore. And it involves a weird collection of who knows what when. And it also has a feature similar to the Lot's daughter's case, where a woman is doing something which is in some way right, even though it's also wrong. She is creating descendants for her dead husband, which is what she's supposed to be doing, and what she was stopped from doing illegitimately by Yehuda. And that part is good. On the other hand, the way she goes about it, again, is highly questionable, at the very least. In the end, this is the origin story for Boaz. Now, the thing is that, coming back around to Megillat Rut, in order to produce Malchut Beit David, which is the goal, really, of Megillat Rut, we need to fix a few of the things in its past. Because we don't really want the motivating force of our long-term government to be, we get the results that are necessary by immoral means. That's not really what we want the story of our future government to be. And it's really, in some ways, more important with a hereditary monarchy that you get these things right than it is in the kinds of governments that we live in. Because if we have somebody in the government who we don't like, we can get rid of them, A. And B, nobody in our government has absolute power. If you're going to hand over absolute power to a family, and then you're going to trust them with it over the course of hundreds of generations, you really need to get the right family. Like, that matters. And they really need to have an understanding of themselves that involves both following the law and reaching moral goals. They need to be planning on both. One or the other will not do. Okay, so in order to get to the purpose of Megillat Ruth, we're going to need to reinterpret or fix some of the problems in the origin stories of both Ruth and Boaz, or neither of them can be the ancestors of David HaMelech. Okay, so now let's come back to our questions that we started with. When Naomi is instructing Ruth on how to prepare herself for the evening, it seems to me that the things that she's supposed to be doing are making her more herself, not less. She's going to wash herself, which will make her more recognizable. She is going to put on her own clothing, right? That matters. Tamar is wearing a costume. And Lot's daughters are, well, they're not costumed, but their father doesn't know they're there. Ruth here is going to be herself, and she's going to be as much herself as it is possible to be, with no barriers between her and the outside world, not even dirt. Okay, but she still can't make herself known right away, because we need Boaz to know who she is, and we need him to be at his best. So unlike Yehuda and Lot, both of whom are depressed, Lot very badly so, and so scared that he is hiding in a cave for the rest of his life, and Yehuda who's mourning for his wife, unlike Lot and Yehuda, who are lonely and depressed, and in Lot's case, very, very drunk, we need him to be at his best. So he's going to eat, he's going to drink, he'll be happy, he's going to sleep off the wine, and then he's going to wake up fully conscious, well-fed, and happy in the middle of the night so he can make a responsible decision. It's going to be the opposite of everything that Lot and Yehuda had to go through. In the same way, that's why she needs him to wake up, but not violently or upsettingly woken up. She can't go shake him. That might actually frighten him. So she just makes him a little bit cold by uncovering his feet, and then waits. It takes a couple of hours. Eventually he comes to, a light sleep part of his sleep cycle, and he wakes up gently and pleasantly. And he's an awake, functioning person. And that's really, really important, because we need him to make a rational choice here. And with reference to all of the knowing, Lot doesn't know when his daughters come. He doesn't know when they leave. He doesn't know where their babies come from. It doesn't actually say that he ever finds out. Although once you name your child from my father, you'd think he'd, have an inkling. But I don't know. He's entirely clueless. He agrees to get drunk the second night. So it seems like he didn't understand at that point, at least, what's going on. And Yehuda doesn't have any understanding of what's going on until it suddenly crashes down on him 3 months after it happened, what he must have done. Here, it is really, really important that Boaz know exactly who he's talking to, exactly what's going on, but that he not know it until the right moment, because we need to set him up as well-rested and well-fed and so on. So we're going to wait, but then he needs to know what's going on, and then Ruth needs to know what's going on. Everything's going to be on the up and up this time. Everybody's going to have maximal possible information about everything. Notice that he even tells her, well, there's another man who might want to marry you. I need to clear it with him. Right? Even society is going to get a say in which everyone's going to know in advance and get to say whether she should marry this guy or that guy. There's not going to be anything, in the end, there's not going to be anything private about any of this, which is odd because we're doing it in the dark, in the middle of the night, on a threshing floor, alone. But the goal is for it to not be private. And the goal is for everybody to know what's going on. Now, you might notice that I haven't dealt with the question that everybody likes to ask in the 3rd chapter of Megillat Ruth, which is, did Boaz and Ruth do anything other than talking in that threshing floor that night? And the truth is, the reason I didn't deal with that question is because I don't think it makes any difference, and I don't think the text cares. Because here's the thing. If they did sleep together, it was voluntary and knowing and consensual on both sides. And if they didn't, that was also voluntary and knowing and consensual on both sides. And in the end, what matters about this scene is that these people are communicating with each other and they know what's going on, and they're going to do the right thing the right way instead of doing the right thing the wrong way. And it doesn't really matter what else happened. That's it. To me, it sounds more like they didn't sleep together, but I don't really think the text cares very much. And that is what gets us, in the end, to David HaMelech and ultimately to Mashiach, is when you have people who want to get to moral goals badly enough to make sure they get there, and they make sure to use moral means to get there. And in the end, what the Boaz and Ruth this night end up reforming their family. They're rejecting the narrative of both of their origin stories and choosing instead a different narrative in which they're not going to act that way anymore. Now, you could argue, since Mashiach will also be descended from Shlomo, who is the son of Bathsheba and David, you could argue that David HaMelech does not completely get the message here. Although, in the end, Shlomo is David and Bathsheba's second child, who was in fact conceived when they're properly married to each other and voluntary. But Yehuda's family continues to have, shall we say, some issues with controlling their urges on through the ages. But the fact that their origin story anchors them in a knowing, consensual, we're going to put all our cards on the table and then we're going to make a responsible decision together about how to get to the moral goal, that anchors us in the possibility of a law-abiding kingdom in which the king is not above the law, the king is not above morality, and ultimately that's what allows us to be in a place where when David misbehaves, the prophet can tell him so, and then he can do tshuva. When Shlomo misbehaves, the prophet can tell him so, and he's not very good at doing tshuva, but he tries. And ultimately, someday, it brings us to a government, again, that can save the world with a vision of both moral ends and moral means. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful and fascinating. Thank you for tying together so many different stories from Tanakh and sharing your insights on the deception and thoughts on consent and what they mean for the lineage of Mashiach and our future kingdom. So thank you so much for this share. It was wonderful. And I hope that everybody else watching enjoyed. Please share it around. And again, if you need source sheets, if you're watching this in the future, email me at rivka@jofa.org for the source sheets. Thank you very much.
Thank you.